This is much more like it from United. I'm all for it. And actually, if this is a manager abandoning his philosophy, sacrificing his principles, then I think it's probably long overdue.
You just want a bit of calm. It's just like you're constantly on this emotional roller coaster.
I don't want to be that guy that's like really upset with the manager. But the one thing that counts the most is like winning football matches.
I think maybe we are guilty of comparing this United team to the greats of the past, and we might never get back to that. What Fergie used to do, and a lot of the players in that dressing room, was they would use the criticism as sort of a positive to create a siege mentality. I would suggest maybe that Ruben Amorim needs to do that.
You're basically saying that the media, who don't have any correlation with your players, don't speak to them,
direct contact.
direct, like day to day, have more impact or influence over them than you do.
Yeah.
This Liverpool team look vulnerable at the moment, so let's have a go.
I think they're there for the taking, and I want to see Man United really go for it. Like Cookie said, want to see Amad Diallo making those runs, overlapping with Mbumo, and to really go at that defence, because that's going to be key to getting the win.
Hello and welcome to Inside Devils, sponsored by talkSPORT Bet, our weekly Man United show, bringing you everything coming out of Old Trafford. We are back to winning ways. A really important win against Sunderland on the weekend sees us back up to 10th. Yes, almighty 10th in the league. Joining me this week is, of course, Alex Crook and Angelina Kelly. Right, before we do get on to talk about the game, we want to pay our respects, though, to the victims and all those affected at the Heaton Park Synagogue attack last Thursday. A minute's silence was observed before kick-off against Sunderland, and our thoughts go out to all those affected by the events in Salford. Of course, that goes without saying. But to the game, Crookie, there was a lot of positives to take from the game. I was talking to a lot of fans afterwards, and I had a bit of reflection over the weekend, and I went, everyone was just so happy, right? Obviously, you talk about the bar being on the floor and we don't win many games, but because there was positives to take from individuals and, of course, the result, and there was just no drama, just a 2-0 routine win. The feeling outside Old Trafford, I thought I missed that. It feels very, very positive. How was you feeling after the game, and what was your feelings about the game?
Well, obviously delighted with the 3 points, and as you say, the league table looks a lot better now than it would have done had those 3 points not been put on the board. But I think I was relieved as much as happy. Relieved that it was a straightforward victory. I actually tweeted when the second goal went in, this is much more like it from United. But let's just see this out now. No dramas, because if Sunderland had have scored, and they were awarded a penalty at one stage, weren't they, at the end of the first half,
which was ridiculous,
that correctly got overturned. But had they have scored, it would have got very nervy, and all of a sudden the same old frailties may have come to the fore. But you're right, lots of positives from the performance. But it's not a major shock, because the home form was pretty good, actually. 3 successive wins at Old Trafford. Probably didn't deserve to lose to Arsenal, as Ruben Amorim keeps telling us at his weekly
That's going to be his Ten Hag moment. Do you remember when Ten Hag couldn't get over the fact that Garnacho was given offside against Arsenal?
Yeah.
And he just kept saying it for two years afterwards. That's probably going to be...
Well, he certainly seems to be banging that drum. But it's the away form, isn't it? And when you don't win away from home, that lack of consistency comes in, and it makes it difficult to put back-to-back wins on the board. But going into an international break, I always think the result immediately before that 2-week hiatus matters more, matters for managers, matters for players, and definitely matters for fans, because we can just relax a bit now, can't we, and not worry about the fact United have lost and start to build up towards Liverpool away.
Well, we know what it would have been, right, Ange? losing that game going into international break. People were already billing it as, if he loses against Sunderland, loses his job, can't lose against them, newly promoted side, etc., etc. And now we've got that win. It's like all the talk in the international break is actually not about Man United and when Ruben Amorim's going to lose a job. It's more about, and he's slotting a mini crisis and losing 3 on the bounce in all comps, and sort of it's just away from us. And that is a real big blessing to have, because we don't get that often, do we?
Yeah, it's absolutely massive that it's not going to be the Man United story for the next week or two. I'm very much basking in the Liverpool situation at the moment. I'm sure we'll talk about them more. But this is brilliant. But I just think it allows us to have a little bit of optimism. We're allowed to have that. I think that it just eases a little bit of pressure, and that's really what the players needed. It's what the manager needed, as much as he's still coming out and saying, we don't have momentum, talking about the players and the outside noise and all that type of stuff. But yeah, I think it's just good to get a win. I think good the fact that we saw the new goalkeeper, the fact that Sesko has scored another goal. I think that hopefully that he will start to build now and create a little bit of form. I thought that Ahmad and Mbeumo were really, really good. I think that's only like the third time I think that they've kind of played together in that role, and I think it worked really nicely. I know that for certain games you probably will want a Diogo Dalot over Ahmad in that right wing back position, but the way that they were working and overlapping, etc., and they had, you know, an interchange that led up eventually to the Mount goal, etc. So yeah, I think that was really nice to see, and I'm sure the Man United fans in the stadium were just happy to not be wincing at a goalkeeper. And I get why there were so many cheers for even the little things that he was doing, because if you've had to sit there since the start of this season and watch Altay Bayındır completely flap over the most simple things, like, I get why everyone was really happy. I mean, I think obviously, you know, singing, you know, the Schmeichel song and all that, a little bit premature, but...
Yeah, I'd never have sung that. I think that was a bit past it for me.
I think you're telling fibs.
I was part of it all.
Yeah.
I was part of it all in the stadium.
I was honestly,
I don't care, mate.
I'm not mad at it in the moment. That's absolutely...
We've got to have a bit of fun.
Yeah,
We've been in the
exactly.
dumps. And you know what? It's funny, right? Because in the stadium, right, there was this like big gasp, right, as the ball was in the air and Sonny Lomans came to just do what any normal basic keeper should do, which is catch a ball. But in the stadium, there was this like, is he going to catch it? Is he going to catch it? Is he going to catch it? And as soon as he got two hands on it, we just all celebrated like a goal.
Yeah.
Honestly, and then he did it again in the second half. And then he made a save from Granit Xhaka that was probably going wide anyway. But it was like, oh my gosh, there's a keeper who's just doing normal stuff.
Yeah.
And do you know what I likened it to? I was there for Harry Maguire's debut against Chelsea, I want to say it was. I think it was. Got to be careful because the HMRC guy will get you now. So I think it was against Chelsea.
Allegedly.
You lot can let me know. Allegedly against Chelsea. I believe it was 4-0 and I think it was Dan James's first game as well. But you lot let me know because HMRC will get me. But anyway, I remember Harry Maguire just sort of heading balls away with big distance, and there was big cheers because we were like, we finally got a big centre-half who could header the ball. It's not Rojo or Bailly. I think Blind at the time might still been there. And you get that irony. But Sonny Lomans, though, as far as debuts go, Crookie, it's a massive step in the right direction. He looked to bring a real calming influence to that back three/back five.
Yeah, he did, and you mentioned Peter Schmeichel. He's been quite complimentary, hasn't he, about the debut, and saying basically it's nice that we got a goalkeeper now who's going to save the team points as opposed to cost them points, because not just Altay, but that's what Onana did for the majority of his United career as well. He'll have tougher examinations, not least at Anfield next time out, but I think he passed with flying colours. He commanded his penalty area. He did the basics well. His distribution was very good, and actually it was intriguing to hear Mason Mount talking afterwards about the fact that they weren't afraid to go long at times, and I think that could be a good outball this season, using the pace of Bryan Mbeumo in particular to get the ball from one penalty area to the edge of the other, and certainly we saw that happen a few times on Saturday. Yeah,
do you know what? On that, actually, I wanted to bring that up, and you just kind of alluded to it there. I want to get your takes on this as well. And a conversation that seems to have arisen is the fact that we did go long for pretty much every goal kick, didn't really try to play out from the back. Some fans have said, because, you know, we'd like to talk out of both sides of our mouths, well, I thought Ruben Amorim said that we were going to stick to these principles and that he's not going to do that. And we've been trying to play out from the back for so long, and all of a sudden he's abandoned his principles. And some other fans are saying, wait a minute, we've been asking for him to adapt, win at all costs, just find a way. Did you have any thoughts in particular about going long versus not going long, or was it refreshing to see, actually, yes, get the ball forward, we've got a 6'5" lad up front. Last time we did that, he won the flick on against Trevor Chalobah. That led to Robert Sanchez being sent off. And that's what you want to see? Or do you see that point of some people going, I'm not necessarily digging Amorim out for doing it, but he just told us all this time that he wouldn't change anything?
Well, I'm a little bit old-fashioned, but I think that first and foremost you should win football matches and then worry about how you do it afterwards. I think it's very much substance over style. It was a must-win because the Wolves would have been at the door had United not beaten Sunderland, certainly if they'd lost at home to Sunderland. And listen, we all want to see our team play beautiful football, but there were goals during the Fergie era where Schmeichel just held it from one end of the pitch to the other, released people like Ryan Giggs and Andrei Kanchelskis. So I'm all for it. And actually, if this is a manager abandoning his philosophy, sacrificing his principles, then I think it's probably long overdue.
Yeah, how about you, Ange? Do you care at all?
But I completely agree with what Crookie's saying, but is it any wonder that this man does not want to change things? Because even if he's tweaked one slight thing, everyone's up in arms about it and got loads of opinions about it.
Is it refreshing that he has just done that?
Yeah, but it is definitely refreshing, and hopefully this will be the beginning of him maybe, loosening the reins on a couple of things, which I think we've discussed, certain aspects that do need to change. But for me, I agree with Crookie. Like, we are, we've been in crisis, let's be honest. Like, it has been an awful start to the season. Last season as well was so difficult, and I just think take it for what it is. It's fair enough, it's against Sunderland, you should be beating Sunderland, but at the end of the day, it's a win at Old Trafford, clean sheet, our brand new striker got a goal. Our new signing in Bumo looked good. Mason Mount looked brilliant. I think that was one of his best games for Man United, and I really enjoy watching him play for us. And I think, we were talking before, I've been on international duty covering some of the England stuff. I think he's a player that, if he continues on this run, he could potentially have a place, with Thomas Tuchel for England. So I just think overall, just happy about the fact that we've got a good win under our belts. And if he changed something, great.
Yeah, I'm not. I think when you've lost as many games as we have, we're not in any position to be winning against any opposition and sort of saying don't want to win like that.
Yeah.
That can happen once we've turned a corner. Frank's cut his hair. We've got more than 5 wins on the trot.
I still think that's a little way off. By
of course it is, absolutely. We're going to get there. Oh, Crookie, we got. This is just talking about the Sunderland game in isolation. As the show goes on, we're going to really talk.
We're just being nice for now.
Because we've got to look at the positives. Because we don't want to come on here every week. Because it is rubbish coming on here every week. Talking about all the negative things that have happened and why we can't see any hope.
Give them the flowers where deserved.
100%. Yeah. I think when we do get a win per 90, where there's a lot of individual good performances, we have to be happy about that. Mason Mount, actually, I do want to talk about him because he was really good. And I think actually, especially into the second half where the whole team seemed to have dropped a level a little bit just to kind of see the game out a bit sloppy. He wasn't. He was nutmegging players. He was taking the ball round players. He was really expressing himself. Took his goal really, really well. Left foot set, right foot finish from Mbumo, the assist. And he looks confident, and he seems to represent a player that Amorim really, really trusts whenever he's fit, because he just does a lot of the basics really consistently. Like, he's probably our best presser. He keeps the ball. He keeps his shape. He doesn't deviate from the plan. And Amorim really, really trusts him. And it looks like, going into that Liverpool game, it's like he's undroppable for this game. He's got to start.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see how Mateus Cunha reacts to that, because we know all about his personality. I think Gary O'Neill, his former manager at Wolves, has been talking about that this week, that you can't improve the player in terms of ability, but maybe you can improve the attitude and application. So he's going to have to respond in the right manner. But I think you're right about Mason Mount, and he's a player who all coaches seem to have a lot of time for, be it Thomas Tuchel, be it Sir Gareth Southgate whenever he was fit for England, and clearly Ruben Amorim now. And I think it was certainly his best performance at home in a Manchester United shirt, because I think a lot of his good moments have come away from home as opposed to Old Trafford. And what I think you can say about Mason Mount is that he's someone who cares. I was at the derby last season when he hobbled off really early on. You could see he was
started well in that game.
He was absolutely distraught that his body once again had let him down. So there's been a lot of bad eggs that have infiltrated that dressing room at Old Trafford and Carrington in recent years. He certainly isn't one of them. So I really hope he can stay fit, because he does seem the perfect player for Ruben Amorim, the perfect player for this system. And he's got a brilliant football brain. I actually think he could probably be better suited to playing in a deeper lying midfield role even than Bruno Fernandes is. And obviously that's been an issue for Bruno, because I think tactically Mason Mount is a lot more astute even than the skipper.
Yeah, he's very tactically flexible. And actually, look, and he's had so many injuries since he's been here. A lot of stick for being, I get it, £60-odd million signing. He's our number 7. In that window where we brought him in alongside Onana and Rasmus Højlund,
we were a bit confused by it.
We were, weren't we? And he was the first one through the door. And we were like, that's a bit weird. Mason Mount, why are we doing that? 1 year left of his contract. What's happened here? And the run that he'd been on, like I said, with injuries, that hasn't been paid back at all, really. We're still waiting for him to arrive. And do you think we're starting to maybe see the early embers of what Is this like a bit of the Chelsea Mason Mount starting to see?
Yeah, I really hope so. And I think, the way that he runs, the way that he presses, when you look at our midfield, when you've got somebody, like a Casemiro who, no disrespect to him, but he can't run like he used to. Manuel Ugarte, sometimes, he's got many, many struggles. But I just think we don't have the most mobile midfield at times. So I think the fact that he is able to press and run and do more, I think that it really complements the midfield. And I agree with Crookie. I think that I would like to see him a little bit deeper to see what that looks like. But it's been tough for him, and the way that he spoke, saying that he's 100%. Well, we are 100% behind the manager, and I like his honesty. He was talking about how only having one game a week gives you a lot more time to think about things, and I think a lot of other clubs, you have a game coming up in a few days to kind of right the wrongs and try and turn things around, and that's something that the players have got to sit with this season, thanks to that Grimsby game.
Yeah, exactly.
That it really is, one game a week. So. But no, I really like Mason Mount. I think I like the way that he speaks. I think that I was confused when we signed him, but one of the first things I thought when Ruben Amorim came in, I thought, here we go.
Yeah.
This could be,
now.
This could be something for Mount. But yeah, I mean, and I also like the fact that we have competition in those number 10 roles. People can argue and say we shouldn't have bought Cunha and Mbeumo, we should have bought someone else, whatever. But I like the competition. I like the fact that we've got different options, and maybe that will, spark a reaction in other people. But yeah, I mean, like I say, this week it's been a massive conversation about how obviously Marcus Rashford is technically a Barcelona player at the moment. We don't have a Manchester United player in that England squad. Kobbie Mainoo, obviously, it's very, very sad. Yeah. But yeah, maybe Mason Mount will be the next, Man United player in an England shirt, considering he won Thomas Tuchel a Champions League, essentially. So,
yeah. And Thomas Tuchel is loyal to those players, isn't he?
Look at Ruben Loftus-Cheek.
Reece James, a lot of eyebrows were raised when he was recalled in Tuchel's first squad because he'd not really played much for Chelsea. So I think if he stays fit and he can keep performing on that level, I think he has got a chance.
Yeah, he's definitely got a chance. So positives for Mason Mount. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Big positives for him. Big positives also for Benjamin Sesko, because a lot of fans were a bit mystified, like why he wasn't starting the season. You know what it's like. We need a new striker. You move Rasmus on, and then it's at home against Arsenal, first game of the season. He's not starting. Fulham away, he's not starting. Game after that, Burnley at home, wasn't starting. Got his first start in Manchester Derby, didn't he? I believe. And then he started ever since, actually. I think he started 4 on a bounce now, or maybe 3 or 4 on a bounce. But positives for him, that's 2 in 2. Are we starting to see him express himself, get confident, and be ready to kind of ignite his United career now?
I hope so. Let's not get too carried away, because we remember Joshua Zirkzee scoring at that end on the first day of the season against Fulham and didn't really kick on after that. But I think he's got attributes. He's quite an ungainly centre forward. He's not the most elegant of players, but he can bulldoze his way, can't he, into scoring positions, a bit like Erling Haaland. And it was a really instinctive finish, from the throwing into the area that flicked off a Sunderland head, and he had to react pretty quickly. He did that, and he's going to do his confidence the world of good. I guess that the question of him, and actually some of these strikers who come into the league, Victor Gyökeres as well, is can they really deliver in the big games? So Anfield away from home, he's obviously going to keep his starting place. I think it's a huge opportunity for Sesko to show that he can be that guy to deliver on the big occasion.
Yeah, it's all about the continuity now for him, because, we got to start at the Etihad and that was an absolute horror show of a performance. Yeah. I think he had one shot on target that he kind of made himself from outside the box. It was quite tame, if I remember correctly. But does it look like Amorim's handled this in the right way then, in terms of actually, I remember him sort of saying when he first got here that Benjamin wants to do so much, we have to ask him to do a little less. He hasn't had a full pre-season, etc. To keep him at the firing line. Has he handled this quite well, actually, in the end?
I think so, and I think we've seen it with the goalkeeper as well. The fact that, people questioned why he wasn't starting, and Ruben Amorim spoke about, you're moving to a new country. It's, for some people, it's a new language, new culture, just like normal life stuff, like normal adult life stuff of just like moving your family, all that type of stuff.
You need time to settle.
Getting readjusted and things like that. So I think that's fair. I mean, listen, we want our star striker that we've just bought to be playing as much as possible. But if he needed that time, I don't think he was 100% fit. I think that's what it was. And that's okay. I'd rather that than him start these games and then the media attention that would have been on him. He's not fit, he's this, he's that. Because, we see it so much with Manchester United that it is a completely different game, because the media scrutiny is so much more aggressive. And there are a lot of players that have been brought into different clubs that aren't performing. You know, look at Liverpool, look at Wirtz, for example. You know, and as much as people are talking about it, people don't talk about it anywhere near as much as with Manchester United. So if he's protected the player a little bit in that sense of letting him find his feet, then I'm all for it. But I think one of the issues that he had in Germany was struggling to find consistency all the time. So it's something that he's got to work on. But I'm just happy to see it. I know that there's a lot of talk about Rasmus Højlund and what's going on in Italy and the fact that he's scoring so many goals. That's great. And I think it's okay that maybe Rasmus Højlund just wasn't cut out for Manchester United. Maybe it just wasn't a match. And that's okay. And if he's great in Italy, then he's great in Italy. And I wish him genuinely all the best. We've got Benjamin Sesko now. Let's focus on that and hopefully he can get the continuity.
Yeah. That duo of Ahmad and Mbuma down that right-hand side was causing a lot of problems for Sunderland. And I know, you have to take the opposition into consideration. But does Ruben Amorim need to be more brave now and sort of look to play those two as much as possible? Or is it a bit similar to what Angelina was saying about different horses, different courses? Might want to bring Dalot in. Dalot, not good again, not good once again.
No.
You know, is it now on Amorim to start believing in that and letting those two sort of make that connection no matter what the game? Yeah,
I think those connections are important, you know, particularly in those wide areas. We saw it with Trent Alexander-Arnold and Mo Salah last season. Look how much Salah is missing his mate at fullback. So I understand why away from home at Liverpool it might be more sensible to go with a more defensively minded player. But actually, I'd go the other way and say, look, this Liverpool team look vulnerable at the moment. So let's have a go. You know, let's build on what we saw at Old Trafford. There is clearly something developing between Mbeumo and Ahmad. You're right that Dalot's not playing well. Not just this season, actually, he was really poor.
I don't know what's got.
For the majority of last season.
Any form, any consistency. He's making odd decisions. He's, you know, after kickoff, I don't know if you saw it when Xhaka played a through ball to Adingra. Dalot has a look behind him to say, all right, I've got Traore. Then has another look to say, I've got Traore. Then Traore just goes round him, nearly scores after like the first couple of minutes.
I mean, the offside flag was up anyway.
Yeah, it was. But do you know what I mean? Takes the first touch, it goes straight out for a throw as well.
It's an ongoing issue with Dalot. And I think Ahmad also is a player that needs to be loved by the manager. He obviously wasn't loved by Erik ten Hag. He was last season by Ruben Amorim. He was allowed to flourish. It's been a little bit stop-start for him so far this season. Obviously, he's had personal bereavement as well. But I think I would be inclined to keep him there. And I think the most vulnerable part of this Liverpool team is their defence. So let's have a player there who can have a go at them.
I want to start seeing that. I think it's important to have those guys linking up on a consistent basis to build those relationships and we get some continuity through the team.
Because you've only got one game a week, you've not got those other opportunities to get them working together. You've got so many less games that every game does count, like you say, and getting those relationships clicking is going to be key.
Yeah, Lenny Yoro was also back in as well, speaking of relationships clicking and stuff.
And he was at Lille, wasn't he?
He was at Lille doing kick-off. You know, he's a Lille goat, you know, probably retired his shirts high up in the rafter. But, that's his team. Come through there, the youth ranks, isn't he?
Yeah.
It's a nice touch. But back into the team, after being taken out against Brentford, etc. Good performance from him as well. Needs to stay in there again in that three.
Yeah, I think so. And again, I think about these building of these relationships and things. You know, we've seen a lot of, Luke Shaw, of course. Who I'm not 100% convinced by Luke Shaw. I think he just really frustrates me because we know what he can do.
Sometimes
we also
he does
know what,
and
and it's like a light switch. It's on off, and I know he's been incredibly unfortunate. What was it, 4.5 years of his Man United career he's been injured? Like, I understand that, but he does frustrate me. I like De Ligt overall. I think that is he a centre back that's going to be winning your Premier League title? I think I've said it before. I don't really know, but I think for where we are at the moment, I like him. But Lenny Yoro is, at the moment, looking at some of the recruitment in recent years, he's a situation where I think we've got it right. I think that he is so promising, and I think Ruben Amorim needs to show a little bit of faith and trust. And I don't know him. Maybe he is a bit like an Amad Diallo that needs to maybe feel that bit of love. I'm not too sure because, like I say, I don't know him. But maybe I think just keeping him consistent and keeping him playing is going to be important, and especially for if he's sticking. I know he likes to make the substitutions and all that, but you're starting
still did it
three.
Again against
You still want them.
Sub.
Yeah, you still want them to be.
It was a bit later, wasn't it?
It was a little bit later. To be fair, I think he's listening to you now.
Give him some.
Give him a bit of credit.
Yeah,
it was like the last few minutes.
You just don't need to do it.
You just don't. I don't.
Keep doing that.
But we're going to see it at Anfield as well, so just get ready.
I would start Euro though. I would keep that back three together. Harry Maguire's an interesting one, slightly deviating from topic, but the notebook is out today on the talkSPORT website. I've written there about the fact that Maguire wants to stay beyond his contract at the end of the season.
Is there a link to Saudi then, or...?
That was played down to us when we made contact. They said they couldn't afford his right foot, sources in Saudi Arabia. But I think the only way he does stay is if he takes a significant pay cut, because we know that Ineos are trying to trim the wage bill. He's going to be 33, I think I wrote, by the time the summer comes around. And he is a squad player now, isn't he? He's not someone who's guaranteed to start week in, week out.
I think he would take that, though. I think Harry Maguire is the sort of player... I don't know, he really does love Man United, likes playing for Man United wherever he can. I could see him sort of saying, I know I'm going to be a squad player.
It's not a bad situation to have an experienced head guiding people like Lenny Yorov through games and through their United career, because, let's be honest, he's not the best defender that's ever played for Manchester United, far from it. But he has shown that he's got great character. He's been jeered by his own fans.
He's a good club,
he's been
man.
written off by the media. He's been dumped by England.
Yeah.
And he keeps on bouncing back, doesn't he?
Yeah, and I think in the right games, at the right time, if we're in the right moments, he can get some minutes here and there. It's when he has to be relied upon as the main centre-back. That should just not be happening in 2025. But it tends to happen now because we still don't address certain issues, or the manager chooses.
Yeah, it depends what he wants out of however many years of his career he's got left, because you have to look at what the viable options will be for Harry Maguire, because it's going to be... I don't see it being a club above Manchester United. It's very, very rare that happens. So you're going to have to... And I know people might say, oh, well, Man United were 15, whatever. No, Manchester United is a football club. You're not going to get higher than that. So he is going to have to drop down. Wages are going to have to drop down. So if he's comfortable with that, and maybe because he wants more game time, then fair enough. But if he's really happy at Manchester United, he's settled there, and he wants to still wear that shirt, and he's all right taking the pay cut, then I think, that could be the best option. It all depends on what he wants.
Yeah.
I've changed.
A while ago, you wouldn't have been entertaining the idea.
And this is the problem. We keep entertaining these guys staying here.
We don't know when to cut the cord.
Listen, there's a lot of players that need cords cutting. Don't worry, I'll get onto that. But I just don't really know what we're good. I mean, how much money realistically we're going to get for him?
He's out.
No, he's out of contract.
Well, there you go then. There you go. So...
Just a chance to keep a bit of experience. But there'll be a lot of people screaming at the camera, listen, like what you would normally say, no, let's not do that.
It's going to be a big summer, isn't it? Because Casemiro is definitely going to go.
Yes.
And there'll be other players moved on as well. Some of those players out on loan. We might talk about Marcus Rashford later. I personally think Barcelona probably will take up the option to sign him permanently.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. And it is going to be a big summer. So... Those are all the positives. We've done the positives because, here at Inside Devils, we don't just want to talk about the negatives all the time. We have to talk about positives. But we've done that. We also now need to take a step back, because it is the international break, and look at what lies ahead, right? It's all good. It's all exactly. It's all good beating Sunderland, which we're supposed to do, and highlight all the individuals who did their thing and did well. Now let's talk about what it means going forward, because like you said there, Crookie, there's a tough run. It's Liverpool away, it's Brighton home, it's Forest away, and then it's Spurs away, I believe, before the next international break. We know we're always one game away from complete, scrutiny, meltdown, anger, protest, etc., etc. And after the positives from Sunderland game, if we did take a heavy battering at Liverpool and reignited their form, could it spell the end, or it's still too early for that type of stuff? But it would be like, one step forward, two steps back, wouldn't it?
And that is the Manchester United way.
Yeah.
So I think we'd all be surprised if they got a win at Anfield. It's been a long time since that happened. very good performance last season. Probably still, for me,
Our best.
the best performance under Ruben Amorim.
Why are all our best performances a loss to Arsenal, a draw to Liverpool? Why is there never a win? That's how bad.
But I was there that afternoon, and just watching it, it felt like Amorim ball was finally coming together. The players knew what they should be doing. There was a grit and a determination, but obviously it proved to be yet another false dawn. The issue you got with those run of games that you've mentioned, we never win at Anfield. Brighton have become our bogey team in the Premier League, and they picked up a couple of great results at Old Trafford. Forest, everybody beats Forest. And who was the fourth team you mentioned?
Spurs away. And we ain't beat them in God knows how long.
We beat Tottenham. They were our Achilles heel last season.
Home or away.
I think if you go into the November break and you've got 1 win in 4 from those games, then again, I think a lot of scrutiny is going to be put back on Ruben Amorim.
What do you think, Ange? Do you think that Ruben needs to go on a run of results? You know, a lot of former United players are stating that Amorim needs to go on a run to be able to save his job. You're looking at the lead up to Christmas. It comes very quickly, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And the lead up to the next international break after this. Is it key that he goes on a run? Or do you think Ineos are still sort of, regardless of the turbulence, regardless of how up and down the performances might be, they're just going to stick with him anyway?
It's hard because you don't really know what Sir Jim Ratcliffe and co are really thinking, you know what I mean? I think it's, for them, it's that they don't want to admit that they've made a mistake. I don't think they want to sack Ruben Amorim mainly because of that reason, because once again, they've got something wrong.
There's also no obvious successor.
That as well, 100%. And I just feel that they will want Ruben Amorim just so long as they can see changes. I think as long as they can see like little improvements, I think that's what they will maybe clutch to. But I think for the fans, for the players, for the manager, we need a run. We 100% need a run. We need a run for Frank and his hair, man. Like we need a run for that because that hair is big and like
5 in a row.
Like it's
I can't see us doing 5 in a row all season. I'll be honest with you.
It's a big
like,
ask.
even if we do all right, like, and we improve and we stabilise, to actually win 5 Prem games in a row.
It's difficult to
Frank,
do. It's difficult for any team.
Yeah, it's difficult. Not many. Yeah, like we're looking at a friend of mine that comes on the channel, United View. Shout out to James from the Muppeteers, really good guy. But he's always the calm one, right? And he won't mind me bringing this to here. He's always the calm one. He's based out in America. He's a great guy. And he was sort of saying, while we were all like, wow, it's one game against Sunderland, you know, he goes, guys, we always talk about the form guide and it's the last 5 games. In the last 5 games, he said, nobody's won more games than Man United. Now, there's a lot of teams, there's like 6 teams on 3 wins. But when you look at it, it's a difficult league. You know, we've got 3 wins out of the last 5, which is no better than anyone else. You know, the top teams, you look at Liverpool, you look at Arsenal, they've got the same in the last 5 games. And there's a lot of pushback saying, well, you know, we've also lost against it, all the other stats. But like you said there, Ange, do we sometimes need to take a step back to get a little bit of calm? Or is it actually as bad as we've been saying it is? Because that's the thing that a lot of fans are disagreeing on. Some fans are like, listen, it's the first 6 to 7 games of this season. It's early. I know it's bad, but give him time, etc., etc. Other fans are like, absolutely not. We're prolonging the inevitable. This is a continuation from last season.
Basically.
I've heard other fans say it as well.
Well, I flip-flop, to be honest.
At least you're honest. You're honest. We like
We all
that.
do. We all flip-flop.
We all do.
We're
This
fans.
is a roller coaster.
But I want this guy to succeed because I like Ruben Amorim. I understand what he's trying to do, but I think he is too stubborn and too wedded to his principles. But I also take on board Flex's point that this is probably one of the most competitive Premier Leagues that we're going to see. I was at the G-Tech on Sunday. Manchester City players were high-fiving each other at the end of the game. They were so relieved to come away from a 1-0 win against a Brentford team who sold most of their best players, put a rookie in charge, because everybody's competitive this season. There aren't any whipping boys. Sunderland have made a brilliant start. It's a really good win against this Sunderland team. So I can see all sides. But what I would keep coming back to, and there was a stage after the Brentford game when I was thinking, well, they've just got to get rid of this guy. It's not working. He's been there nearly a year. But I don't have a name for you. If you said to me, OK, sack Ruben Amorim, who comes in? And you look at the list of candidates, it's not Sir Gareth Southgate for me.
No.
Roberto De Zerbi, I'm told, would be reluctant to leave Marseille mid-season. I think he's got the type of personality that would be able to handle the job, but obviously that's not going to happen. Thomas Frank is at Tottenham now. He would have been a contender. Going to be difficult to get Eddie Howe out of Newcastle would be another name that I think I would probably put
Plasner and
forward.
Iriola?
Not Iriola for me. I think he's done a brilliant job at Bournemouth, but I think he suits being a big fish in a small pond. I think United could potentially just swallow him up. Oliver Glasner, I'm impressed with him. I went to Palace, Liverpool. I spoke to him after the game. I like the way that he spoke, but it's easy to speak from
it's what happened with Ruben. We like
when
the way
you're
he
in a
speaks,
position
he
of
does
power.
this, he's done that.
So I don't think there's one manager in the world that you can say, right, he's going to come in and immediately improve Manchester United, and that's the problem that Ineos.
And that was the push. That was the thing of like when I was saying I was a bit angry last week, but we all were.
Yeah, that's okay.
Is that a reason to not change though? You know, where it's like, but who'd you get? But then again, it is a good question to ask.
Yeah, and I did appreciate your point of saying, if something's not working, get rid, bring someone else in. And if you do have to keep going on that merry-go-round, that's the way that it is. I do appreciate that. I think it's just, maybe because we're Manchester United, we like the stability. You're never going to get another Sir Alex Ferguson, but you're never going to get managers now that stay in a club as long as he did, as long as, Pep stayed at City. You're not going to get that now. But I think you just want a bit of calm. It's just like you're constantly on this emotional roller coaster of people leaving and, jobs being at risk and this and that, and is he going to get the sack? And I think people just want that, just a bit of just calm for a little bit, and I think that's okay.
But the thing is, it's been everything but calm.
Yeah,
like by staying with the antidote, we're going, well, it's anything but calm. But then a few positives. Look, United have won here. I've got it here. United have won 4 of their last 8 Premier League games. Now, I know that's not, it's 50%. Yeah. I know it's not anything to shout about.
And Ruben Amorim won his 50th game in charge.
Exactly. He's the first manager to do that since Fergie. All right, okay.
But I read that to a friend who was like, he's not won 50 games. He's not won 50 games.
It's just the number 50 he managed to win it. But those 4 out of 8 Premier League games, Ange, are as many as in our last 21 games. So 4 out of the last 8 is as many as the last 21. So there is improvement.
There is, technically.
I think
the stats don't lie.
I think there is improvement week in, week out. However, Grimsby was an abomination. Brentford was a disaster class. And the derby wasn't great either, was it? But you take them 3 games out of it, but the other 5 have been okay.
Do you see what I'm saying? And this is what I mean about the slim pickings, man. Like, I don't want to be that guy that's like really upset with the manager and I think we're better off changing. I don't want to. I want him to turn it around. I want him to stay for ages.
That I really like.
There's loads of aspects of him I like, but the one thing that counts the most is like winning football matches. And when you keep, that's what worries me. Where I'm like, well, we're going to have to move on, aren't we? Because we're just not going to win enough games. When I look at, and I hope I'm wrong on this.
Yeah, but then that depends on. And again, listen, I have publicly said that I think this manager is floundering, but what's the objective this season? I spoke to a fan of another club, someone in the media. He said United are 10th. It's probably about where they are as a team. Are we still?
My ceiling was
we still guilty of judging it based on previous glories? I was at a pub quiz last night, and Eric Cantona's greatest United goals came on TV, and I thought, well, why can't we play like this anymore? People like Kanchelskis, who I used to adore, but before your time, obviously, because I'm so much older.
You love Andre Kanchelskis.
I love Andre Kanchelskis. But, and Ryan is a big one for this. I think maybe we are guilty of comparing this United team to the greats of the past, and we might never get back to that.
We will. We will at some point.
We've all grown. Like, look at the things. Like, I'm not cutting the cord. You're accepting the
mediocrity.
Yeah,
that's true.
Wow.
I think. I do agree with you in terms of we can't just keep going. Well, when Sir Alex was here, this, or when Keno was here, we have to kind of stop that because they ain't here, and there's not a lot of characters. I
guess that's another part of it, of the criticisms of the former Man United players. That I think it's ridiculous that Ruben Amorim's like, they need to stop talking because it's upsetting my players.
You've just taken it there actually. I was gonna get onto that because I want to see what Cricket thought and yourselves. Gary Neville did have a pushback because he wasn't even aware of those comments at the time of reacting to them. But Ruben Amorim did do that. He was basically saying to the media that
you're upsetting my players.
You're basically telling the players that it's the system when it's not the system, and I've got to undo that. What did you make of those comments?
I thought it was naive. And I think Simon Jordan has gone on talkSPORT since and said this is a manager. Sometimes you just need to shut up because he talks too much. And listen, he always gives us a quote. So it would be hypocritical of me as a journalist to say, I don't want this manager to keep talking.
But as a fan.
But it wasn't a great look.
It's a stop talking moment.
It wasn't a great look because if the mentality in the dressing room is so weak that they're going to start listening to comments from the media as opposed to their own manager. And he's actually undermining his own position.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I mean, to play devil's advocate, there was fans that were pushing back and saying, well, it's all right you saying that, Gary, about, you know, Alan Hansen, the famous words of you'll never win anything with kids. We had pressure, there was accountability. It's all good saying that, Gary, but you didn't have WhatsApp back then. You didn't have social media. It was easier to switch off.
Yeah.
Is that a fair point from the other side of fans saying, well, actually, Ruben does have a point because the scrutiny in the media are getting into the players' heads, the fans as well?
Listen, I would imagine that it's very hard being a professional footballer and not having social media and things not infiltrating you in some way. And, you know, even working in the media and the jobs that we do, and we're not professional footballers, we're not on that level of maybe Cookie's a little bit, but we're not all on that big, you know, superstardom level. But, you know, we've had it, I'm sure we've all had it when you have family members coming to you that are like, oh my God, I've just seen this comment or this or that. So it's like, even if you try and put yourself in a bit of a protective bubble, like there's going to be things that do seep through. So I understand that and I appreciate that, and it must be very hard. I think what Ruben Amorim's saying of like, oh, my players are believing you. I do get that idea of now you've got to have a bit more in you to be like, right, okay, Gary Neville said that, whatever. Because, you know, people also have been arguing that, you know, your Wayne Rooney's, your Gary Neville's, your Roy Keane's, you know, what did they achieve as managers? And that's other people, you know, having an opinion on that, saying, you know, they didn't manage to make it unless one of them's going to go back into management, which I'm not aware, but none of them thus far have made it. But also they're great pundits. So it's a bit of a difficult one, but I do understand that it is difficult for players and it is very, very different. And you've got it from all angles. You know, you hear stories about, you know, the things that, not in like a negative way of players like getting away with things, but players being able to, you know, like go and do this or go and do that or like go to a concert maybe or do whatever.
Right now with
like,
phones out, so you can't do that,
everything's phones out now. And so it is difficult. And we do have to appreciate it.
For me, I appreciate the difference in errors. I appreciate the difference of how you need to communicate with players, how you need to make your point, how you need to coach players of the modern era versus then. For me, I think it's completely ridiculous to kind of go down this route, though. I think it's dangerous if we're starting to say that the players that we're talking about that are Premier League Hall of Famers and GOATs of the game didn't have pressure like they do now. David Beckham couldn't leave his house, mate.
Yeah.
Like, let's not, like, what
there
these
was
guys,
still
and these are
pressure there.
serial world-class players. Like, I'm talking, like, even if it's just English players, like people like Gerrard, you know, obviously we're looking at Rooney, we're looking at Rio, we're looking at Gary Neville, we're looking at Scholesy, all these top draw players of that generation. Pressure, mate, they couldn't leave their house if they lost the game. You know, you talk about paparazzi following Beckham around everywhere, or Wayne Rooney couldn't do this or couldn't do that.
And also...
And back then, the papers, even though social media,
the
paper was...
were brutal.
If you were on the paper, mate, that's it, it's everywhere. You can't hide from it.
And I think what...
So we need to be, like, it needs to be relevant to that. I don't like to harp on about the old days,
but also nowadays, you do have a lot of support, and rightly so, for the mental health aspects of it, whereas in their generation... I'm sure that people struggle with their mental health,
100%,
but it was more of a taboo. People didn't talk about it. It wasn't considered as a reasonable thing to have a problem with. So even in that aspect, mental health is mental health, but there is a lot more support and you are made to feel like you're in a much safer space to be able
100%.
to speak about it now, at least.
And also what Fergie used to do, and a lot of the players in that dressing room, was they would use the criticism as sort of a positive to create a siege mentality. I would suggest maybe that Ruben Amorim needs to do that, rather than coming out and trying to blame the media.
I just think you're right. It's a bit of, as much as I want Amorim to do well and stuff, it's a bit of, I don't know, a sign of weakness if you're going to sign up to play for Manchester United, and in his case, manage Manchester United, you're signing up to all the things that come with it. Harry Maguire sat down with Rio Ferdinand not long ago in a really good interview, talking about exactly this. When it goes really well, sometimes not even that well, like winning Premier Leagues and Champions League, but just other, like Carabao Cup, where you're lauded. You get all the perks of being a Man United player. You get big wages, you get the love, you're part of a fantastic club.
Life-changing.
It's life-changing for you, and it's the privilege to actually play for this club. You get all of that. But then when it goes wrong, you also sign on that contract, say, when it goes wrong, mate, you do understand that playing for this club, you're going to get scrutinised like none other. You're going to get criticised like none other, and there's going to be pressure like nowhere else. Yeah. That is what you sign up to. And when you are the manager of this football club, you also sign up to that. So you can't be shocked that also, you know, it's not knee-jerk reactions, by the way. This isn't like sort of falsified. It's because Ruben Amorim disagrees with the journalist that the system is the problem. He's made it very, very clear that the system is not the problem.
But then he tweaks his system slightly, as you already mentioned, with those
Exactly.
adjustments at the weekend.
Do you know what I mean? So I just think there are parts of what he's saying that is true in terms of, you know, it is harder for me to get into my players now because you're telling them this, but that means, except Crookie, you're basically saying that the media, who don't have any correlation with your players, don't speak to them.
Or direct contact.
Direct, like day to day, have more impact or influence over them than you do when you cross the white line in training every single day and work, you know, in rooms looking at analysis. And for me, that's a tough line to go down. And again, you're offering up more things to say, and I don't like it. How do we feel we're going to get on against Liverpool? Because Liverpool, listen, they've lost 3 on the bounce.
Yeah.
They're there for the taking. If you're talking about a good time to go and play them, you would probably choose a time like now. There's a lot of teething problems. Arne Slot's trying to find his best 11, his most effective 11. However, we fought that against Manchester City when we went to go and play them. They were 2 on the bounce, you know, lost against Brighton and Spurs respectively. And we thought, good time to go and play them, and we just capitulate.
Yeah, and it works 2 ways. You know, sometimes it is beware the wounded animal. And I think going into that Chelsea game, it was only the second time in Slot's tenure that Liverpool had lost back-to-back games. They've now lost 3 in a row. They're going to be absolutely desperate to make sure it's not 4 in a row, particularly at home against their arch rivals. So, yeah, I don't know if it's a great time to be going there. They've got the international break to take stock. Obviously, that brings its own headaches because the majority of the Liverpool and the United players will be off playing for their countries. I'd like to see a similar performance to last season. As I say, that was a standout moment in Amorim's tenure. Go there, be positive, take the game, get yourselves on the score sheet and then see what happens. What we can't see is the capitulation that we saw in the derby.
Exactly, then it'll be back to square one about his job and stuff. And a quick one for you. Go there, be positive, and try and do something we haven't done in nearly 10 years.
Yeah, 100%. I think that...
Because that could be a statement win, sorry, just to say.
Yeah, no,
he needs a statement win.
It would be huge. And I think we talk a lot with Man United about the what-ifs, what if Bruno had scored that penalty or whatever, whereas it's kind of the opposite, because all the moments seem to be going for Liverpool. I personally think that they've been very lucky in a lot of their games to manage to convert these draws into wins. They've been very, very lucky. Like I say, that Burnley game, if it hadn't been for Hannibal, you know, of all people, they wouldn't have won that game. And I think when you look at, I think Mo Salah has looked miles off it. Alexander Isak, this is what happens when you decide to go on strike. You're not fit. They've signed a lot of new players that are taking time to bed in. As Crookie said earlier, the defence does not look good. Very, very shaky.
Virgil van Dijk looks very human all of a sudden.
Yeah, I mean, not often we say that.
Now he's twerking,
Now he's twerking, exactly. Now he's doing his best cricket renditions.
But yeah, and United, as we saw last season, they do have a habit of, you know, trying to raise their game against Liverpool. I think everybody understands what a big game it is. So I think all those things combined, like you said, it's a very good time to face Liverpool. I think they're there for the taking, and I want to see Man United really go for it. Like Crookie said, want to see Amad Diallo making those runs, you know, overlapping with Mbumo, and to really go at that defence, because that's going to be key to getting the win.
Show no fear. Right, let's lock in predictions before we finish
We've not done predictions for a very long time.
Exactly, but we got to. It's Anfield, man. We have to. Crookie, what you got for me?
I'm going to go for another 2-2. Repeat of last year.
I see where you're going with that. Yeah, and what you got?
2-1 win for United.
We're going to do it.
That's big.
We're going to do it, yeah.
Big and bold.
Big. That is me, bold.
We're gonna do it,
Middle name.
Like that jumper.
Oh, man.
Go on.
Draw, man. Draw. The wind's just...
I know.
There's something about that ground, man. We've got to respect it. We just don't.
A point would be a good result.
Yeah.
At this stage, a point will be a good result, and the pressure's on them. You know. Well, actually, no. The pressure is on us, because if we lose and lose badly, we're back to square one. So, no, I definitely think I'm going to go for a draw. So there you go. Right, that's all we've got time for on this week's Inside Devils. A big thanks to Alex Crook and Angelina Kelly, and we'll see you next time, hopefully after a win against Liverpool. Don't hold your breath.